money, I'm rich, don't matter. I want to do everything I can, and I made that very clear to them being the team from the very beginning, that it was my idea, basically help the team however I can this year. I don't care about my pay at all this year. Big Ben desperately wants to come back for one more season, and the temperature on him internally in Pittsburgh has been turned up quite a bit. I have a very, very close friend who does afternoon drive radio in Pittsburgh, used to a show with Big Ben, is probably Big Ben's biggest media ally in Pittsburgh, a guy named Andrew Filipponi. Even Filipponi locally is calling on the end of Big Ben. I never thought I'd see it happen, but that's what happens when you throw a half dozen picks in a playoff game and get beaten soundly by the Browns. But Dwayne Haskins is not the answer. Mason Rudolph is not the answer. The Steelers are not going to be in position to draft a quarterback this year, at least not a quarterback that would be ready. So I do understand why they might want to try to run it back with Big Ben if he was actually willing to shave serious dollars off his 2021 $41 million cap hit. That's the number. It's the highest in the league. Here, though, is the unfortunate reality. And this is after digging into his contract. $22 million of that $41 million has already been paid to him. So that's going to be on your books no matter what. He has $19 million due to him this year. $4 million in salary and a $15 million roster bonus that's due in the middle of March, third day of the league year, I believe. So my question to Big Ben would be this. Are you actually willing to take that $19 million down to like $1.9 million? Are you actually willing to give back $15 to $17 million that, by the way, if we cut you, you're not going to get anyway? And do not a restructure, but a pay cut? Because restructuring just means you're going to pay me my money. It's just going to come on a different timeline or in a different way. So what the Saints did with Drew Brees was they restructured his deals and they added fake years on the end of it, which was great for Drew because he got all his money and that cap hit ends up being spread out over years. He's not going to be with the team anymore. I'm sure Ben would love to do that. Yeah, pay me my full amount of money, add a couple fake years to the back end of the deal, and then the cap hit goes down this year, but then you're paying, you have money allocated against the cap in 2022 and 2023 when I'm retired. That is today Pittsburgh borrowing from tomorrow Pittsburgh. That doesn't actually help them. What would help them is if he is willing to just forego that $15 million roster bonus and shave a little bit off this salary. And I would put Ben to the test on this. The Steelers have paid Ben Roethlisberger $250 million in salaries. He's one of the 5 highest paid players in the history of the sport. Nobody can question their loyalty to him. But he's not worth $41 million against the cap this year. He's going to be $22 million against the cap no matter what. And I think this is a good story to continue to monitor. Is Ben actually willing to give money back? Or is he simply saying, I'll restructure, but all that money's coming my way? Because if it's just a restructure, they're better off cutting. You got to at some point rip the Band-Aid off. If he's actually willing to give money back, then I think you can continue to work with him. I also think the Steelers don't want to be in the position of having to cut Big Ben. So I think this is, I'm not saying I'm not taking him at his word, but I want to know the nuances of this. Because if it's just borrowing from the 2022 and 2023 Pittsburgh Steelers, you're better off just ripping the Band-Aid off, trying to duplicate what you did a couple years ago without Big Ben, but with a couple more wins, and then having a clean cap moving forward. If he's willing to give back 15, 16, 17 million, then you got something to work with there. Pittsburgh native Joy Taylor with the news.
Yeah, that whole segment just really upset me.
Turn on the news. This is the Headline News.
Yeah, because I am from Pittsburgh. I've been watching the Steelers my entire life. And they're a very loyal franchise, and I have no anticipation that they are going to do anything progressive in this situation. They're going to ride out into the sunset with Ben Roethlisberger, and it's going to be a long decade for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what I believe.
Which, by the way, Joy, the Saints kept trying to push it out one more year, push it out one more year. Let's try to peel a Super Bowl with Drew. They obviously never got that extra Super Bowl, and now their cap is wrecked for the next couple of years, even without him there, which is a problem.
Yeah,
and I think that's the cautionary tale.
I was okay with what they did with Drew Brees in the Saints situation. It was different. They had Taysom Hill. They're very creative in that offense, and they had some success. Like I thought they did the right thing by going all in with Drew Brees this year. You didn't get it done, but I mean, you were almost there. So I didn't hate the way that it ended for them. It's not the same situation. I mean, we all watched what happened in that Browns game. It was a disaster. It was an all-time disaster. It's a totally different situation. So Tom Brady has more Super Bowl experience than any other player in NFL history, but he doesn't think that will give him an edge when he takes on the Chiefs next Sunday.
Experience doesn't matter. Playing well matters. The team that wins is not going to be the most experienced team. It's going to be the team that plays the best. So we got to prepare the best. We got to execute the best. We got to perform the best under pressure. And if we do that, we'll be champions. And if we don't, we won't be.
He's not wrong. I heard you guys talking about this on First Things First this morning. I agree with him in this situation because the Chiefs have been there before and are pretty much running it back the same as last year. The more experience doesn't really matter in this situation. Most of the players and main players who are on both sides of the ball have been there before, have been in big games at this point. So you pretty much know what to expect. I mean, if you have Andy Reid and, Bruce Arians has been there before as an assistant. Obviously, Tom Brady, they're going to help the guys out who haven't been there before, getting them set up for the week, letting them know what to expect and all of those things. So he's right about that. Obviously, the Super Bowl is a different game. There's different timing throughout the game. It's a different week leading up to the game. All of those things are important. As we know, they all matter. But in this game, I actually agree with him. I don't think that the experience is going to matter. It's going to be who plays the better game. Or I think you would probably argue if the Chiefs have a total collapse.
Total collapse. So I had a take this morning on First Things First that immediately got, I think within the same segment, our social team pushed it out there, which always means this was either a great take or a take they found so outrageous they just knew it would get interaction. And a segment later, I checked, and I think it had 140 replies and 3 retweets. The kids call that getting ratioed. I'm going to double down on that take, but I want to run it by you, Joy. For this game, I think you could argue Patrick Mahomes has the more relevant experience than Brady because he was in this game a year ago with the same coach, coordinator, teammates. Tom Brady has been to 9 of these things before, but never without Belichick, never outside of New England. His only teammates that are relevant that have been to the Super Bowl are Gronk, JPP, and Sue. So I think you could argue that the more experienced quarterback for this game in this situation is Patrick Mahomes. Heard, folks, send that one out too. I'll get ratioed again. I stand by the take. I think it's a legitimate take because we've never seen Brady without Belichick in a Super Bowl.
I actually agree with you. And this is weird because you and I do not agree on a lot of things. But I think the issue with the take and why you're getting ratioed, similar to why people are freaking out about Justin Herbert, is you're not actually listening to what you're saying. They stopped listening after saying Patrick Mahomes has more experience. The back part of what you're saying is what's actually important. And I do agree with you. He's running it back with the same coordinators, most of the same weapons. It's a repeat from last year with most of the things still in place. And you're right. This is Tom Brady's first Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. He's in a completely new system. I certainly didn't expect them to be here. I thought they would make the playoffs and win a few games. I didn't expect to see them in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I agree with you. In this situation, it is a bit of an advantage for the experience of what his team is on Mahomes. For the continuity. Yeah, I agree with you. Right. You have to listen to the whole sentence, guys, like the whole thing.
This is what always happens to me. Whenever someone disagrees with me, it's because they weren't listening. That's what I've learned. It's not because I was wrong or it was a bad take. They just weren't listening.
I don't know if I'm going that far, but in this particular moment, I would agree with you. So Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy once again did not get a head coaching job this year, and Patrick Mahomes cannot believe that he hasn't been stolen away from Kansas City yet.
Yeah, it amazes me, honestly. I mean, if you look at his track record, man, the way he's able to lead men, and which is, people say that, but to be able to lead a locker room of people from every different background, every different race, and everything like that, and be able to be the leader of the locker room is a special talent. Coach recalls plays, but there's a ton of input on Coach Bieniemy, and he calls a ton of plays in our game plan, and it just gets overlooked.
Patrick Mahomes is picking his words very carefully in that statement because a lot of the reviews of Eric Bieniemy
the way he's able to lead men, and which is, people say that, but to be able to lead a locker room of people from every different background, every different race, and everything like that, and be able to be the